everyone, and welcome to Westside Unitarian Universalist Church. Welcome to all of you who are here in person, and welcome also to those of you who are joining us on YouTube today or sometime in the future. My name is Linda Phippen. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm a member of the worship committee. It is my pleasure and privilege to be the worship associate this morning. Whoever you are, however you chose to be with us today, we are glad you're here. All who come with an open mind and willingness to join with others whose lives and beliefs may be different from your own in a search for meaning and belonging, you are welcome here. After the service, if you are here in person, please hang around and join us for coffee. Do so. And one other thing, the Building and Grounds Committee has scheduled work days on Mondays, 8 to 11, throughout the rest of July. If it's drizzling a little bit, it will be going on, but if it's pouring rain and thundering and lightning, it will be canceled. And in the back of the room is a list of some of the things that they need to get done, and Jerry's holding it up here if you'd like to see it. It's kind of a long list. So sign up if you're willing and able to help out with that. So this morning, we are pleased to welcome as our guest speaker, H.P. or Helen Rivers. Many of you will remember them from their time at Westside before they began their journey to become a UU minister, which she is going to be talking about today. And now they are going to invite our singing bowl to sound.
If you like candles, Now, my kid was going to light the chalice, but he ran off without shoes on, so. Our chalice lighting words are from my book, Love Songs for the Revolution, and this is a poem called Unitarian Universalist. When they ask you, what is your qualification? Say, I am made of star stuff. Your pedagogy, I am still alive. Your theology, love, only love. And we have 2 additional candles over here that we are lighting in honor of all of the joys and all of the concerns throughout the world that we all carry with us and move through us this time. Oh, we're going right into the next thing. Thank you. So, how many of y'all were here the last time I gave a service with this? All right. Now shout it out real quick. Who can remember what this is? It's the path to making a minister. All right, so we're going to do a quick TLDR. I'm not going to make you go through the whole thing again because that took forever. So, to become a Unitarian Universalist minister, there are a lot of things that someone has to do. The first thing, discernment. You have to decide that this is what you really want to be doing. Next, you need a letter of recommendation from a Unitarian Universalist minister in full fellowship. So when I started this journey back in 2018, one sec. This is all the paperwork. So when I started this journey back in 2018, Reverend Carol wrote me a recommendation to become a UU minister. She wrote about my potential, my growing edges, and endorsed me as a UU minister in formation. But that wasn't enough. The next thing I needed was a background check, because it's actually very important to background check clergy and people who are going to be working with populations, right? And then I needed formal sponsorship from my home congregation. Chris, what do you remember about that?
Me?
Yeah, you were the...
Right?
Yes, Westside is my official sponsor congregation, which means that y'all have vouched for me as a minister officially, which is very cool. I was living in Florida at the time, and I got a message on a Sunday morning of a photo of the board saying, we just voted to officially sponsor your candidacy, which is pretty cool. I'll find that photo for y'all later. So we're still in the very early stages, right? I haven't even talked to the UUA yet. All right, so we have a formal sponsorship by a home congregation, and then we have to go to seminary. How much do y'all think seminary costs? $30,000. $30,000? Any other guesses? So to get a Master of Divinity degree at any accredited seminary, you can expect to pay anywhere from $30,000 to over $100,000. To get a master's degree at a Unitarian Universalist identity seminary, you can expect to pay over $60,000, which I did. Well, the government did. I have a lot of student loan debt. I did get a couple scholarships, though. So seminary takes about 3 years. And then we're all the way down here. We also need a psych evaluation. Who wants to guess how much the psych evaluation cost? 1,000? 500? 10,000. It was less than 10. The psych evaluation was 1,500, and included a stack of paperwork about that thick, right? And let's see, 3 to 6 years of seminary, psych evaluation. Let's see. And then you have to do 2 big internship type activities. The first one is clinical pastoral education. That is where you take a 500-hour course with 400 clinical hours in a hospital or another clinical setting providing pastoral care with supervision. So I did that in late 2024 into early 2025, and a ministerial internship, which is a 1 to 2 year internship in a Unitarian Universalist congregation or community context. Let's see. After that, you pay $250 and fill out a huge packet of paperwork, wait about 6 months, and then you can go to the Ministerial Fellowship Committee for your interview. Now, and after that interview, assuming you pass, you are welcomed into preliminary fellowship, which means that you're cleared for ordination and to seek grown-up jobs in UU contexts. So right now, as an intern, I don't have access to like the job boards and job listings, but as soon as I'm welcomed into preliminary fellowship, I will. Now, one sec. Now, who remembers where I was last time I talked to y'all? It was early 2024, so I hadn't finished CPE yet or internship, so I was just out of seminary right around here. So, deciding which way I want to take this story. First of all, what kind of questions come up when we talk about this process? Like,
how in the world do you afford to live when you're paying that much?
How in the world do you afford to live when you are paying that much? That is an incredible question, and I'm so glad you asked it. When I graduated with my MA in social change from Star King School for the Ministry, one of our UU identity seminaries, I graduated in 2023, and I was working as, what was my job? As a communications consultant for High Street UU Church in Macon, Georgia. And at High Street, we undertook a 2-year experiment in social media ministry. So they kind of gave me the reins and let me build a social media platform for them, and we reached all kinds of people. It was awesome. So I was working there for a little bit. I worked as a religious educator part-time while I was in seminary in Tallahassee, Florida. And other than that, pretty much just living on a prayer. Typically, when we do internships, an intern will come into a congregation. They will be an employee of that congregation for 1 to 2 years while they complete their internship, and then and they will be paid a stipend. It won't be great, but it will be enough to live on, intern wages. What happened to me?
Tell people about the pig cups.
The pig cups.
They're going on you, they're drinking your pig.
Yes, I'm getting to the pig cups. So if y'all have been with the UU for a while, you know that every year we do our Canvas campaign. We raise money for the operations of the churches, and this happens in every congregation. Congregations don't get money from the UUA or anything like that unless it's a specific type of grant. So, in order to take on an internship, the intern needs to connect with the church up to a year and a half before they're wanting to start an internship, and arrange basically to make sure that the church can afford to pay them. So I moved back to Tennessee in 2024, January 2024. The previous summer, I had reached out to Reverend Bice at Tennessee Valley about an internship there, and they tried, and they weren't able to raise the money. Next year comes around, they tried, they weren't able to raise the money. So a couple months after I saw you all in April 2024, I was faced with this decision. I had to decide if I was going to move out of state to take an internship, and I'm a single mom, so that's a big undertaking, or if I was going to figure out how to do it on my own and unpaid. And I weighed the options and decided that doing an unpaid internship, while it didn't make any practical or logical sense, was actually the only way I could complete this process without uprooting my family again. So, in summer 2024, I wrote a proposal to the Ministerial Fellowship Committee for a community and social media-based internship. And what I did was I performed all of the tasks that I would in a community, in a congregation, online. I built a TikTok platform where I talked to people about Unitarian Universalism and progressive faith and deconstructing their faith. And I also started the thing with the pig cups, which is Blessed Be by H.P. Rivers. Y'all should all have a little postcard, that my son passed out. If there's not one on your chair, there's more around. And this really started truly on a whim. I was looking at what it would take to make stickers to fund my job at High Street for another year, because we had a lot of online engagement, and I was like, if I could get people to start buying 50-cent stickers, something like that, could I sustain this ministry for another year so that I could keep my job for another year? I couldn't quite do that, but I found out that I could absolutely make UU t-shirts. So that's what I did. I started making t-shirts and mugs and lots of designs based on UU stuff and UU values, because there wasn't really anyone doing that at the time. We have the UUA's In Spirit bookstore, which is probably the other biggest UU gift shop, but I actually was in a meeting with them a couple months ago and jokingly said, well, I'm your biggest competition, and they said, yeah, you are. So through Blessed Be, I have worked with dozens of organizations and UU communities all over the country, and some in Canada as well. So that has almost helped. The business brings in anywhere from, it's okay. The business brings in anywhere from like $300 to $1,200 a month, which is great, until we realize that it costs about $4,000 a month to survive, right? I don't know if I mentioned yet, I have ADHD. I'm very easily distracted, which is not a bad thing, just a real thing. Okay. I didn't plan a transition from this thing to the next thing, so give me 10 seconds. So last time I was here, I had not done internship or CPE or my MFC packet. This time, I'm almost done. I completed CPE by the grace of God, or something resembling it at least. I was able to find a clinical pastoral education unit that was offered online by a Unitarian Universalist educator, which there's only one. Her name is Reverend Karen Hutt, and she's actually also she's the only national faculty from ACPE who is Unitarian Universalist, and she is one of the only Black national faculty as well. So I had a fabulous clinical pastoral education supervisor, and I was able to complete my CPE hours with the UU Young Adult Revival Network, which is an online community of UU young adults from all over the world. So I completed, typically a CPE unit will be in person in a hospital, a nursing home, something like that, but I completed mine completely online in my bedroom, taking pastoral care meetings with young UU adults all over the world, and also with religious professionals, because I found that many religious professionals like myself, who are religious educators, seminarians, even some folks who have been ministers for a very long time, they don't really have access to pastoral care, which I think is kind of silly, but that is what it is. So I completed that completely online, and it was a very different way to do it. So now I am 2 months out from my MFC interview, which is going to be like the biggest interview of my life, and has been scheduled now since like March. And this interview, they will go over this whole packet, which includes all of the things. This is mostly things that I have written, also evaluations from from my supervisors, my internship committee, all of the things. So it's a lot of things. So what I want to ask you all is, how many steps does it take to make a phone call? You gotta wait because you got the later answer. How many steps to make a phone call? 3? What are they?
Pick up the phone, dial the number, call it.
Yeah, pick up the phone, dial the number, press send, say hello. Awesome. What are the steps to make a phone call if you're hard of hearing? Yeah, you might have a TTS number. You might use some assistive technology. What are the steps to make a phone call if it's really loud wherever you are? Find a quiet spot. So that adds an extra step. What if you have ADHD, Morgan? How many steps are in making a phone call?
You need to make a list of what it is you have to talk about. Make a script, figure it out.
Wait, I'm going to repeat after you so everybody can hear me. First, you're going to make the list of everything you need to talk about. Then you are going to mentally prepare a script for how you're going to go about this phone call.
Make sure that you are in a place that's not going to distract you.
Make sure you're in a place that is not going to distract you.
Hype yourself up, put the number in.
Hype yourself up, put in the number or select it, all right?
Then you're going to call, panic,
Press call, panic,
and then proceed with your conversation.
proceed with your conversation. That's 8 steps.
Yeah.
It's a lot of steps. So it's not actually as easy as picking up the phone, even if the instructions might seem simple on the surface, right? That's what I think about when people say we all have the same 24 hours in a day, or we all have the same opportunities. We like to believe that every single person among us has the same chance at success, the same shot at the American dream. But that's not true. We all have whatever shot at the American dream our personal circumstances allow us. So people like to tell me, oh, wow, you've gone through seminary and CPE and built your own business, and you're a single mom, and your kid is autistic, and you're ADHD, and all the things. How do you do it? You're so strong. I don't want to be strong. I'm exhausted. But often people would rather call me strong than sit in the discomfort of what this strength has cost me. I decided to pay the cost, to follow my call and answer my call, but not everybody has that chance. At every single point on this journey down here, we lose qualified Unitarian Universalist clergy and formation because they simply cannot afford to keep going. And I've been in that spot several times. I mentioned I finished CPE. I didn't mention I tried to quit CPE multiple times because I couldn't afford it. And Reverend Karen, God bless her, she refused to let me quit. And she also didn't get paid until I was able to pay her. But she refused to let me quit and said, no, you can figure it out, we can figure it out, and we did. We raised over $8,000 for CPE tuition for myself and another UU seminarian who is also a solo parent and wouldn't have been able to finish it otherwise. And that was my friend Jess. Jess and I have both been in this process for 8 years, and we have both watched people who entered this process after us finish and get ordained, and that's okay. I'm happy for all of my colleagues, and I'm also very aware of how different our journeys have been. So I decided to answer this call because there is absolutely nothing else I could have done. About 7 years ago, I was sitting with Reverend Carol in the nursery. That very tall young man who was with me was a very small young man then, and I was sitting in the nursery talking about what I wanted to do with my life. I was studying social work, and I really thought that's what I wanted, but it was just not personal enough. I couldn't connect with people deeply enough. And Reverend Carol listened to me talk about this for weeks and weeks, and then eventually she said, okay, your spirit guides are telling me to just tell you, I think you should go to seminary. And I was like, what? I had never considered it. But once I started considering it, I realized there was nothing else in the world that would ever let me feel fulfilled. And that was more advice that I got from many mentors is, if you want to be a minister, go for it. If there is nothing else in the world that would make you happy, because it is not fun, it does not pay well, it is often very thankless, and it is really hard work. Now, how many of y'all does that just like sound like a blast to? Like, yeah, sign me up. Right? That's what my best friend says too. But for me, there's nothing else in the world that I want to do. There's nothing else in the world that makes the right amount of sense, that resonates with my soul and uses my skills the same way. There is nothing else in the world I would rather do, and it has cost a lot to follow this call. And so that brings me to a question for you all. What would you do with your one wild and precious life if there were no barriers? If there was no, you need this level of education, or, well, I have to take care of my kids, I have to take care of my house, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too whatever. If you could do anything with your wild and precious life, the thing that lights you up and brings you joy, what would you do? It can be a rhetorical question, but I will also take responses. Morgan.
I'm doing it.
You're doing it? That's awesome.
Thanks for making me realize that.
Yeah.
Foster care job.
Your foster care job, I love that. Who else gets to do a job that they cherish?
I work with children.
You work with children? That's awesome.
I'm pursuing a career in music.
You're pursuing a career in music? Yeah, you're going to college for music and you got your whole first year paid for. That's right. I love being here and seeing y'all. What else? If you could do anything with your one wild and precious life, what would you do? How many of y'all, you know it, but you're not going to say it out loud because it's kind of scary? There might be grief there. There might be, well, I would have done this thing if not for XYZ. I wish I could have done this thing.
I want to be a doctor.
You want to be a doctor?
Yeah, I didn't get to. Nobody's working, no one.
Has nobody supported you? Bridget, what's it going to take for us to support you going to med school? You're not dead, are you? You're not dead. You're not too old. You could do it. And there's grief there. There's grief in the things that didn't go the way we thought they would. There's grief in being children who are told we can be anything when we grow up, and realizing when we become adults that we can actually be anything we can afford to be when we grow up. Living under capitalism is a joke, y'all. We live in this system, in this structure that makes us believe that all there is to life is struggle and suffering and competition, and that there's not enough for everyone. But there is enough for everyone. There is enough money, there is enough grace, there is enough everything. But if we're all sitting in our separate little corners, not sharing what we need, not being honest and authentic about our true desires, other people can't read our minds. So, as UUs, we don't always do the best job, I think, of living up to our values. Those values are lofty, y'all. Like, if I actually met people who lived up to those values every day, I think I would feel intimidated by them. Because none of us can live up to those values every single day. But we can do it in small ways. And what I've learned throughout this process is that the small ways we show up for each other, the small ways that we build this beloved community are actually the work. This is actually the radical work of mutual aid, the radical work of making sure everybody has a ride, the radical work of holding space for all of the what ifs and what if we could be's. The radical work of figuring it out with the love of our beloved communities so that we can complete the things that light us up and pursue the things that light us up. I've grown up listening to politicians and leaders say, we just can't do that, there's not enough, it's not possible. And then I watch what's happening in New York right now with their new mayor and how it actually is pretty possible. So much of it is possible, actually. Sorry, ADHD. So much of it is possible, and it's not even hard. All it takes is for us to try and believe and think outside the box. I wouldn't have been able to support myself, mostly, through internship if I hadn't thought, hey, what if I make some t-shirts with swear words on them? What if I make some mugs with swear words and jet pigs on them? We don't have a jet pig graphic yet. What if I made one? We all have something that we can contribute and offer to our wider faith, to our wider community that is unique and precious. And sometimes it's so normal for us that we forget what a gift it is. Every single one of us is a gift. Every single one of us is absolutely allowed to pursue what lights us up, and we have to lean into our communities and let other people in and do the icky, uncomfortable parts of being in community, like being vulnerable, which I hate. Has anybody else ever been in a pastoral care session with Reverend Carol? And she encourages you to be very vulnerable, and it's the worst thing ever. Yeah, me too. But then you feel better after, right? Sorry, I didn't expect to be so distracted this morning, which is weird for me, but that's my little update on where we are with this, and I actually saved some time for questions because I know that y'all usually have a whole bunch. So wiggle if you need to, and if you have questions, please somebody ask some questions so I'm not just standing up here awkwardly. Linda.
Who actually does your interview that's coming up?
Who actually does my interview? That's a great question. It is a cohort of members of the Ministerial Fellowship Committee, which consists of religious professionals. There's a UUMA, Ministers Association representative, and ministers in full fellowship, and a couple other folks. So I have a panel of, I believe, 4 people. I don't know exactly who they are. I have an inkling of who they are based on who won't add me on Facebook, which is the way that a lot of stuff happens. It's kind of interesting boundaries and stuff. But yeah, so I don't know exactly who, but it'll be 4 of my colleagues. Yeah.
What needs do you have right now?
Oh, what needs do I have right now? Oh, that's a big question. Whew. Right now I need a job. I was working at Star King School for the Ministry earlier this year, and they are doing some restructuring in the way that many organizations will do restructuring, where they will fire full-time employees and hire part-time employees and expect them to fill in the gap. I declined to fill the gap for my 10-hour position and was relieved of my 10-hour position. So right now I need a job. I need some consistent gigs. I need folks who are willing and able and can do so comfortably to like buy some t-shirts and tell your friends about it. But yeah, I'm gonna sit with that, and I will get back with Reverend Carol about specifics.
So you talked about the cost of calling, but is there a gift of basically the challenge that you find? Like maybe you've been able to get something from pursuing the challenge, like moving on with God, catching on?
Absolutely. It's one of those where you have to choose your heart, I think. So I started seminary in summer 2020, which is the second worst time I've ever heard to start seminary. The first was one of my colleagues, but kept me sane, honestly. My son and I were living in Florida. We had moved there 6 months before so I could be their religious educator in Tallahassee. So the only people I knew were from the church. We hadn't really met our community yet, and it was just us in this tiny apartment in Tallahassee, right? For a good 6 months. We didn't go anywhere. And that would have broken me if I hadn't also been in seminary and in these communities at the same time. My professional associations are especially important during that, especially LREDA, which is the Liberal Religious Educators Association. Being able to connect with other professionals who were doing similar work to me made a huge difference, and those connections those are still some of my closest friends and colleagues. And I would say, in general, it's a gift in the same way that most challenges are gifts. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned about my abilities. I've learned that I can handle things that I never could have imagined. But I'm hesitant, I think, to put too much of a silver lining on it, I guess, because one of my biggest things is that this journey is inaccessible. It's not equitable. It doesn't leave space for all of our incredibly talented potential clergy in UU. It leaves space for those of us who have the most privilege and the most access. So, yes, both and pluralism. Shmi.
If you didn't, pass the interview, would you be able to take it again at some point?
Yes. So it's pretty common. It's uncommon to get to the interview and be completely blindsided, and they're like, hey, actually, no. That's very uncommon. I've heard of it happening twice, and my understanding was that in those instances, those folks had serious biases that they hadn't unpacked. So typically, if, let's say I get to my interview in September, and they're like, hey, actually, you need to do, one more course, or you need just a little more practice in something. So this committee meets 3 times a year, I believe. I think they meet in April, September, and December. So if I need to take one more course, for example, they would tell me that in September. I would submit the completion of the course information in December, and that would probably be it. I may or may not have to meet them again, or just prove that I fulfilled those requirements. But hopefully they're not going to be like, hey, actually you suck, go away.
Would you do it all again?
Oh, would I do it all again? You know, I don't think so, just because I would do a lot of things differently. At several places along this journey, I've made things harder than they needed to be for myself by trying to figure them out by myself. So I would do the whole thing again, but I would make some very different choices. Like, for example, I wouldn't marry somebody I met on lesbian Tinder during the pandemic. 0 out of 10, do not recommend. I probably would have moved back to Tennessee a lot sooner so that I could go through this process with my community around. Yeah, a couple things like that, but overall, like, you know, I was studying social work when I got into this, and before that I was studying, I don't even remember what I was studying because I didn't like it. But I was studying social work and I really, really loved it. And I really love sociology and I love learning about people and how people operate. But I don't think I would be satisfied if I didn't get to do this sometimes. And this, you know, this is kind of an abnormal type of service for me. I've been preaching a lot lately about queer rights and about voting rights and Taylor Swift and all kinds of systems of oppression and stuff. So this was kind of a nice change of pace. But yeah, I think I would do it again with a little bit more wisdom, maybe. Maybe I'd listen to Carol a little bit more. You can tell her I said that.
With the Unitarians declining membership nationally at the lowest point in the last 50 years, isn't it very difficult to become a Unitarian minister to a declining population?
Are you speaking particularly about Unitarians or Unitarian Universalists?
Unitarian Universalist.
So Unitarian Universalism is in a weird kind of place where we're holding steady for the most part. We definitely are seeing numbers decline in some places, but whereas after COVID, a lot of churches kind of like fell off and stayed there, UU kind of fell off a little bit and stayed steady and has like, we're starting to see more members. But it is difficult to find a job. It is difficult to find positions, and what we're running into is it's not so much for the ministers, the people who can get through this whole process, get ordained and cleared for full-time positions. But what we're seeing more of is religious educators, for example. Congregations will cut full-time positions down to half-time positions, and that really leads to a whole domino effect where if a congregation has previously had a full-time religious educator maintaining the education programs, then they go down to half-time. A lot of things are going to fall off. And then if the children's programs have fallen off, then your offerings for young families have decreased. You're less likely to have young families, and it kind of becomes a whole thing. So we tend to UUs have a habit of trying to run our congregations like small businesses instead of like communities. So we try to save money, we try to make the most financially responsible choices, but it doesn't always translate to the most socially responsible choice. It doesn't always work to save money in the short term. That doesn't always benefit the health of the congregation long term. So there's huge variance, right? Like my congregation in Macon, they were getting new folks every single week. They were seeing new visitors becoming new members every single week. And a lot of that was from our social media. But in Tallahassee, we saw a lot. I think I had like 50 kids at the beginning of COVID, and we got down to like 14. And now I think they've built up a little bit, but it takes time, and we really can't discount how traumatic to all of our church systems and community systems that COVID was, as it was such a huge change.
So David brings up a good point in that there's not lots of positions out there for you to possibly ever even get.
Correct.
So beyond working for something that's UU associated, what does your background qualify you to do?
Oh, that's a great question. I have applied to every job on LinkedIn in the last couple months, so all kinds of things. My background is in social work, child care, and hospitality. So I worked with kids of all ages and abilities for about 15 years. I was a camp counselor, worked at a residential treatment center, several other places. And I studied social work, and I was a restaurant manager and like trainer for years. So I can do all kinds of stuff. What I'm doing a lot of right now is contract work for custom designs and things, like your Jet Pig mugs. I do a lot of those, and I do a lot of editing and writing and sensitivity reading. Actually, in 2024, when I was here, I was gainfully employed all year as a writer and editor. And unfortunately, after 2024, all of those projects were defunded. So I was doing a lot of work in curriculum development, in sensitivity reading, in editing, where the sensitivity reading was my favorite job. I would go in and just read a curriculum or a book or something and scan it for ways to draw the circle wider, basically. Is there, a phrase in here that could be more, that we could use more effectively? Is there outdated language, stuff like that? But all of that dried up after 2024. So.
I don't think I phrased what was in my mind clearly. I mean, so you've been taking a lot of courses, you get a lot of degrees.
Oh, I see.
Advancing your education, and so I'm saying beyond being employed by some new group, your new thing, not what you have already.
Got it. My new thing. That's a good question.
Is that going to qualify you for something else?
My grandma asks me this question all the time.
Probably your grandma's age.
No, my grandparents also want to know why the heck I got a very niche degree and spent so much time getting it. So, but I'm qualified to serve as a chaplain. I'm qualified to serve as an associate pastor in a UU context or another progressive community. I'm qualified to work with organizations such as Knox Pride and nonprofits like that. I'm working with Interfaith Pride a little bit. And it's really just a matter of finding the right thing. So like right now I have an interview this week for a communications coordinator position with a local nonprofit. That would be pretty neat. So I'm qualified to do a lot of stuff, and I have specifically trained for this very niche job that I really hope still exists in a year or two. But I guess we'll see.
It sounds like you have a great talent for bringing the media into religion, which I think is wonderful. Is there any way that you can turn that into, it sounds like a communications job that you're looking at, but like you can even do consultants with all of these Tennessee's local churches. It doesn't necessarily have to be Unitarian.
Yeah.
Could you use that as your own LLC? I mean, it just sounds, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I do have an LLC. That's a good idea, actually. It's
needed.
It is.
Churches don't reach youth because so many youth get their information from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been really working the last couple years to get my TikTok up to like a high enough follower threshold that I can start getting paid for my videos. It's like once I get 10,000 followers, I have like 4,000. Okay. My TikTok's actually on that little flyer on all of that. It's at hp.rivers.art.
Huge way to help you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, but that helps a lot because when I came into this community, I didn't have anything to offer. I didn't have money to offer. I could volunteer, but that was about it. And I don't want any of my ministry to be behind a paywall. So I'm really intentional about I don't want individuals to pay me to access my ministry. I want TikTok to pay me. I want the UUA to pay me, or whatever the case may be. So I have done a lot with the media. That's a good idea about the consulting.
I think that's brilliant. I think that's out there.
Yeah. Jerry?
Do you have to be ordained to act as an interim minister in a UU church?
Not necessarily. So Jerry asked, do you have to be ordained to serve as an interim? So not necessarily. It's kind of on a case-by-case basis. So UU churches operate on congregational polity, which means we are in charge of ourselves. We function in covenant with the larger Unitarian Universalist Association, but they are not our boss. So in theory, a UU congregation could decide to call anyone to be their minister. If Jerry decides that he wants to be the minister tomorrow, y'all could technically vote for Jerry. But Jerry might have to arm wrestle Chris. It'll be fine. But if tomorrow Westside decided to ordain Jerry, Westside's covenantal relationship with the UUA would be slightly compromised. It wouldn't be toast, it wouldn't be over, it would be, hey, this is something we need to talk about. Because when someone like me goes through the process, gets the background check, does all this stuff, gets their preliminary fellowship, that's when they have access to jobs, like at congregations like this. And we want to make really sure that the people who have access to jobs in our congregations are well qualified. Because I don't know if y'all have ever noticed what happens when the clergy aren't well qualified, if they aren't well vetted, if they don't have background checks and ethics classes and all of the things. It can get really messy, right? So someone like me who's like an intern but not yet ordained or in preliminary fellowship could, in theory, apply for a job like that, but they would need permission from the MFC. So if I wanted to apply for a position like that, and I have in the past, I would have to get permission from the MFC because it has to be very clear that I'm not like done with the process yet. And that's mostly for, boundaries and for the health and safety of the congregation.
Well, the reason I asked that was that after you're ordained, would you consider focusing on being an interim minister until a settled ministry became available?
Oh, after I'm ordained, would I consider an interim ministry? I totally would. I'm actually very good at stuff like that because interim ministers typically have a lot of cleaning house to do and a lot of, hey, we're going to come into this community, observe for a little bit, and then make a list of all the things that aren't working, and we're going to work on them for a couple years, right? Interim ministers come pre-fired, which is good because they can, that allows them more kind of leeway to make changes where somebody's not going to be holding a grudge against them for like 15 years for changing the paint color, right? Like they're long gone by then. So I'm actually really good at that because I am really good at pointing out what's not working and all those things, which people either like or don't. But yeah, so totally possible. Yeah.
What would be your ideal position?
What would be my ideal position? Oh gosh, okay. I would love to find like a 3/4 time ministry where I can work with the community and in the community. Like I don't want to be in a pulpit every single week. I want to be in a pulpit like once, maybe twice a month, and then doing outreach with the community, doing community service, doing mutual aid, doing protests. I do a lot of that right now. Working with youth and young adults, campus ministry would be awesome. And also doing and bringing in the social media ministry to that. Because what I think happens is UUs are so many of us come from religious trauma that we don't really want to evangelize at all. We don't want to say, hey, I found this church. Even saying like, hey, I found this church, do you want to check it out? Feels like too much for us, right? Like too pushy. But I think some of us tend to fall too far away from being honest about how awesome this place is and how great this kind of faith community can be for us. So I think getting the message out there, especially on social media and especially to young folks, is something I'd love to keep doing. I want to keep doing what I'm doing. I just want to get paid for it. Any other questions? And I'm going to be sticking around for a little bit too. All right. All right. I think we're going to take a wiggle break and sing. The words will be up here, and if you have a hymnal, it's number 6, just as long as I have breath. Carol always makes us get up here, so even if she's not here to tell. Okay, I will channel Reverend Carol. All right, here's the thing. The choir has to get up here and sing and lead the congregation, and you should sing with your whole heart, even if you think you're bad at it, because there's no such thing as being bad at it. Do you have justice and generosity? Oh, justice, thank you.
So in our community, there are people and organizations who have a sense of mission, or if you will, a calling to do good. One of those organizations is our Justice and Generosity partner this quarter, and it's Keep the Tennessee River Beautiful. They work in a variety of ways to clean trash out of the river, to keep trash from getting into the river in the first place, and to support some of the organisms that live in the river. So if you would like to donate to Keep the Tennessee River Beautiful, there is a box at the back of the room with a QR code. And you can use cash or check in that box or use the QR code. Or you can use, if you're online, you can go on YouTube, there will be a QR code, or you can go to our website. And the other thing is, if you'd like to, in addition to that, or in place of that, to donate to Westside itself, there is a box in the back of the room that you can use this QR code on that or donate in any other ways I mentioned. And that's it. So thank you if you would like to do any of the kind of donations that support us and our partners in the community. And now, as the service comes to a close, I will hand off to Helen.
All right, dear ones, it is a tradition at Westside to stand and join hands for the benediction. If you want to, this is optional. If you're not feeling it, you just put your hands up. And when I was a kid and I wasn't getting the communion, they did one of these. I didn't like that one. Yes, or hold your own hand. All right, let's make sure Virginia gets in here. Brad, do you need a hand to hold? Brad's good. All right. This is called Your Name Here, or Nico. Sunshine, you set the world on fire. You are a rainbow of hope, a kaleidoscope of dreams, awe in one small and brilliant being. My, how we are blessed by your being. You make the universe sing. Starlight, the moonbeams The moon beams with joy for your dancing, your beautiful life, the magic of you, for your fierce and stunning bravery, for the poetry of your smile. Sweet love, set the world on fire with your radical joy, with your beautiful blooming, the thunder in your heart that can never be tamed, nor should it be. Let the lightning of your love, the storm of your conviction, the softness of your rain bring the springtime the earth is yearning for. My, how we are all blessed by your being, by your thunder, by the song only you can sing. You are the song that the universe sings. Don't you dare forget it. Go in peace and in love, dear ones. Amen.